Okay, hi brothers and sisters. We're back to discuss the crown. That's what we're going to talk about today. And we find all kinds of talk about it in Isaiah 28, which will be the chapter where we're going to be in mostly. So Isaiah 28, let's begin reading. We'll try to make this quick and painless. Woe to the crown of pride, to the drunkards of Ephraim. So what's another name for the drunkards of Ephraim once we get studying it? Well, we could also call those drunkards of Ephraim the bulls of Bashan. All right, we could. And where do we find mention of these bulls of Bashan surrounding a doe of the dawn, really? We find that actually in, oh frig, where is it? Oh man, I forget. My mind is going. Okay, I hope not. Isaiah, it's translated as the doe of the dawn. Why can't I remember that? I did Psalm 22. I know why it confused me. I was thinking Isaiah 22. That's why it confused me. Yeah. Okay. So Psalm 22, and we find the bulls of Bashan, forgive me, in that chapter circling the doe of the dawn. That's what we actually find. Which, as we know, was the daughters of Israel that these bulls were actually circling, also called the drunkards of Ephraim here. And they're drunkards on what? Whose glorious beauty is a fading flower. We see the lilies of the covenant. Flowers. We're also told, I believe it's in Hosea, Israel will blossom like the lily. And we've discussed this profusely, so we're not going to go into that. So, but our glorious beauty, whose glorious beauty is a fading flower, which are on the head of the fat valleys of them that are overcome with wine. What's wine? Well, we've come to understand wine means an admixture of doctrine. It is also allegorical to the Red Sea, that the presence of God, known as the camp of Mahanaim, that we see with the Shulamite, which is the first fruits, also identified as the firstborn daughters. That's right. And they're also described as not only lilies, but also as she-goats, which is important because she is mentioned in the Abrahamic Sarah covenant in Genesis 15:9. All right, I got through that. So, verse 2, Behold, the Lord hath a mighty and strong one, which as a tempest of hail and a destroying storm, as a flood of mighty waters overflowing, shall cast down to the earth with the hand. So, I think that's the rod of iron, and I think it appears in the second heaven, is what I think. And we'll discuss it a little bit more in context, because all of these same words is going to appear in some other verses, and we'll look at that more. So the crown of pride, the drunkards of Ephraim, shall be trodden underfoot. All right, these drunkards who's drunk on wine, their crown of pride, they have trodden it actually underfoot, their own crown, right? The majestic crown of Ephraim's drunkards will be trampled underfoot. And it is, she was. They were known as the daughters of Israel. All right, so we've discussed all of this. You're all following it now. And the glorious beauty which is on the head of the fat valley shall be a fading flower. And as the hasty fruit before the summer, which when he that looketh upon it seeth it while it is yet in his hand, he eateth it up. So the fading flower of his beautiful splendor, which is on the summit above the rich valley, will be like a ripe fig before the summer harvest. Whosoever sees it will swallow it while it is still in his hand. There's more to be understood there. I didn't thoroughly investigate that particular thought. Perhaps in a future video, perhaps not. But let's look at this. All right, so now we're going to get into this crown deeper. In that day shall the Lord of hosts. That's right. We're not looking at no man. We're looking at the daughter of Israel herself, known as the Holy One. that they blasphemed. We find Sennacherib doing that. And we're actually going to bring that in a little bit, I think, as we continue. So it says, in that day the Lord of hosts will be a crown of glory. So what's this crown also called? She's the crown. We find her. Where did we find that crown? In Song of Songs. She crowning him in the day of his espousal. And who was crowning him king? Mother was, who is wisdom. But he's not going to be crowned king to rule. This is actually the ruler of the hosts and the commander of the hosts, which is why she is called the Lord of hosts and also the crown of his glory. Whereas fallen Adam chose a harlot spirit that would build him up as God. All right? We're getting it? Sure we are. And for a diadem of beauty unto the remnant of her people. Not his, her people. All right, was there something more I wanted to discuss in there? Okay, so in Song of Songs, again, it'll reference this crown. She's the crown. Yeah. This is one of the verses I actually forgot to pull up. In the day of his espousal, and we discussed that this is not a marriage covenant in a conventional sense. There it is, Song of Songs 3:11. Let me write that down, just so I'll have it here for reference. Song of Songs 3:11, because you can see I didn't take no notes. Go forth, O ye daughters of Zion, and behold, not King Solomon, the new Adam, Joshua, with the crown wherewith his mother, Wisdom, the Ancient of Days, will crown him with in the day of his espousal, the covenant, which we're going to look at again. It's going to be here. Because he's made a covenant with death, he's made a covenant with Sheol and is at agreement. So this is what is going to be disannulled. We know this, but we'll look at it more in a minute. Mother crowned him in the day of his espousal and in the day of the gladness of his heart. So the crown is she. She's the crown. She's also the Lord of the hosts. The hosts always belong to her. We find the hosts in reference being handed over to the harlot spirit, right, basically, which is handing them over to him. She begins to teach the religious lie to her children. The harlot spirit does. And that's the agreement of death. Anyway, we'll get into it. All right. So the remnant of her people who remains that will receive this truth. The rest gets cut away. And for a spirit of judgment to, now we can say him that sitteth in judgment because he's got the same spirit because it's her, right? But it's really her that is sitting in judgment. And we know that it is her judgment is because of Psalm 110. All right, and again, there's another one I forgot to pull up. I'm good at that. Sorry. Okay, Psalm 110. Psalm 110, how do we know it's her that sitteth in judgment and not him, though they have it a him? Let's go on here. Oh, I forgot to punch in parallel. So now they give me every other website but the one I want. So let me do this. Sorry about that. Parallel chapters. Now it'll give me the one I want. Okay, so how do we know? Well, for anybody who's been watching my videos over a long stretch of time now, it's been a while. It's been over 4.5 years now. But in Psalm 110, we discovered that these same three lords sitting on three separate thrones are these angels that meet Abraham in Genesis 18. I believe it's Genesis 18. It may be Genesis 21. I always get usually 2 chapters mixed up is usually what I do. But it's one of those 2 chapters, and they have it translated as angels. Abraham met 3 angels. Well, the 3 angels he would have met would have been these 3 lords here in Psalm 110 sitting on 3 thrones. And you have mother, you have son, you have daughter. The mother's name number is 3068. The son's number is 113. And the daughter's number is 136. And this is how we've understood it through hard study. So we know it's her that is the judge. And if we go down here, so it says the Lord at thy right hand. So the Lord's number here in verse 5 of 110, after we've discovered the other 2, is 136. All right, and that's daughter Israel's number. So the Lord at thy right hand shall strike through kings in the day of her wrath. That is her judgment. She shall judge among the heathen. And God said to her firstborn daughter, this day have I begotten thee. All right, in Psalm 2. She's also called her rod of iron. That's right. That will strike through kings in the day of her wrath. She shall judge among the heathen. She shall fill the places with the dead body. She shall wound the heads over many countries. And she shall drink of the brook in the way. Therefore shall she lift up the head. So we have the way. Ask ye for the old paths and walk ye there in them, not the crooked ones. And she says, I will lead you in pathways that you have not known, my paths. I will drink from the brook in the way. And it was these waters, her waters, that they were intent on draining and drying up. And so Zion will link us to a dry desert land. They tore her well of water down. We know she is the well, the wife of the original covenant, found in Proverbs 5. You were to receive the water from your own wife, not from the harlot spirit, which is what he chose over the righteous spirit. All right. So that's one of the references that we use to identify why this is not a he who sits in judgment. It is a she. And for a spirit of judgment to her that sitteth in judgment, and for strength to them that turn the battle to the gate. So I have some things I could say about this, but because we've got other aspects we got to get into, and I am limited on time, that I got to get moving here. But it's basically the gates belong to the daughters of Zion. So if these gates are going to be open, she's going to have to turn the battle, right? She's going to have to turn the battle, the tide, right, in her favor. So, but they also have erred through wine and through strong drink and are out of the way. So these also stagger because of the wine and stumble under the influence of beer. They've got, well, it just means strong wine. Priests and prophets stagger because of the wine, the strong drink. They are out of the way through strong drink. They err in vision and they stumble in judgment. So because they are drunk on this admixture of wine, it's really lies. They are stumbling. They are staggering in judgment. Their judgment, they err in it. Because their favoritism is so strong. It's male with male, building male up. All right? When the judgment really was hers to be had. It says, we have struck the judge upon the cheek. Right? It says that in Micah 5:1. It says, go forth, daughter of troops. They have struck the judge upon the cheek. And that was the daughter of Israel. And the striking on the cheek meant they silenced her on the hills of Israel. So they are swallowed up of wine. They are out of the way through strong drink. That's the admixture, again, of the Red Sea that we find the presence of God, known as the camp of Mahanaim, I can never say that word right. The camp of Mahanaim, known as the camp of God, which we find Jacob naming in Genesis, where was it, 37, I think? Might be 35. And then we find this little camp known as she-goats with the Shulamite, not so little, it's a double camp. So that's 144,000 as we discovered. They're also called she-goats, are also called lilies of the covenant. So this camp of Mahanaim was to part the water known as the presence of God. They did so through great power, which is akin to the Red Sea, so that she could birth her children out through. That's the birthing canal. Okay, so you got to part the admixture. Now we're going to learn a lot here, all right? For all tables are full of vomit and filthiness, so that there is no place clean. So we see that this admixture of doctrine that these priests are drunk on, right? This admixture, it's of blood and water. One of blood, which stains you in sin, right? And the first one, which was her, the original spirit of the original covenant, was water that would wash you clean, which was her word, which they rejected. So now they mix this into an admixture called wine. They get drunk on it, right? And not only do they get drunk on it, but they put it to their sister's lips. Where is it? Habakkuk 2:16. You will be filled with shame instead of glory. Now it is your turn. Drink and let your nakedness be exposed. The cup from the Lord's right hand has come around to you, and disgrace will cover your glory. So, woe to him, verse 16, Habakkuk 2, who gives drink to his neighbors. Actually, that's the sister. Pouring it from the wineskin until they are drunk in order to gaze at their nakedness. Yeah, her nakedness. You know what the King James has got the nerve to say? Unto the, let me go back. I'll go back here. 1. Woe to him who gives his neighbor drink, pouring it from the wineskin. Okay, so this is the New International Version. We'll go to the King James. Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, that putteth thy bottle to him, and makest him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness. Okay, so then we come up with harlotry, right? And they always say she as a harlot, all right? Well, he put the drink to her lips so that she would get drunk on this admixture of doctrine and be bowed at his feet, the idol Baal, as your Lord and your God. Baal is another name for your bridegroom. And we know that Baal was an extension over time from the bull god Apis out of Egypt, also known as the solar calf deity. Yeah, that's right. You want to know how it all came about? This is how it came about. And you have to study it. The plague broke in upon Israel, the woman's seed. That's right. It broke in. And that plague was this admixture that built a man up. That's right. And so the women began to do this with their goods as well, which basically meant his law that he was writing eventually over time just removed all of her goods from him. And all of them was used to just continue to build this ridiculous idol up that you find standing in Daniel 2 and 3, and Nebuchadnezzar dreams this dream, and we will understand it in the sense that it is this idol of Jesus. And the three main religions all build this male idea of God. Okay, so we get that reference. They have put the drink to her lips so that they could gaze at her nakedness. And the reason why we call it her, we know it's her. They say in Micah chapter 4, let her eyes look upon Zion, let her be defiled, right? They want the women in Zion defiled. They want them under their feet. That's what they want. Then we get this verse in Isaiah 59 where it says, thou hast laid thy back flat, and they say, bow down that we may go over. They say that in the law. Bow down, women, because we're better than you are. That's what they say. Oh, they say they don't say it, but they do so say. Even the laws that they've supposedly given us back has all been designed to favor man. It's a very cunning shape that they're really following. So, and for a spirit of judgment to her that sitteth in judgment, okay? So they err in vision. So like we've discussed this, they have this male. So these ridiculous, and it really wasn't visions in the beginning. It began as imaginations of the wicked heart. So there is some idea that your dreams are imaginations, but it's also linked to your pineal gland. It links us to Jacob. There's a lot going on there, so we're not going to get into that. They are out of the way through strong drink. They err in vision, they stumble in judgment. For all tables are full of vomit and filthiness, so that there is no place clean. So this admixture has led to a filthy world of iniquity. Law has shaped iniquity. 9. This is interesting. Whom shall she teach knowledge? Who did we discover was another name for the teacher? Or what did we discover was another name for the teacher? The Qoheleth, who will set the Proverbs in order. It's also a name for the Spirit who's setting her case in order to be presented before the Ancient of Days when the books are opened, all right, in this court case going on. So whom shall she teach knowledge? And to whom shall she make to understand doctrine, the truth? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast? Yeah, that's who you've got to teach. But watch. Where is it? Where is it? I had it on the end here. Watch this. When you've got women following men in a religious lie, all right, she's not going to be teaching those that are weaned from the breast. She's not going to be teaching her children the truth. And that's what God's saying there. Who am I going to teach? My daughters have turned away from me and are bowing to an idol in a religious lie, right? So woe to those who go to great lengths, great depths to hide their plans from the Lord, who do their work in darkness and thinks, who sees us? Who will know? Right? We've come so far in this religious lie, and we have failed to turn back to the truth, to our mother. And it says in verse 16 of Isaiah 29, you have turned things upside down, as if the potter, the creator, the one who forms the clay in her womb, were regarded as clay. Shall what is formed say to her, not him, who formed it? She did not make me. Yep, that's what they do every day. I read it every day in comments. Father and his children. Father gave life to everything. And if I'm yelling, it's because I'm really mad. It makes no sense. Who is she going to teach the truth to? These women who are saying, Father, Daddy, and his children? Shall I teach you the truth because you're not listening to me? You have turned things upside down as if the potter were regarded as clay. Shall what is formed say to her who formed her, him? She did not make me. Can the pottery say of the potter, she had no understanding? That's exactly what they did. That's what she's telling you they did. So here she's asking, whom shall I teach knowledge to? And whom shall I make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast? Well, so far there's very few of us. But she's going to pick a branch out, a new daughter out. That's what she's going to do. And her spirit's going to rest upon her to teach, as the Koheleth that will put in order these proverbs that you find in Ecclesiastes 12. We also find her as Asaph the gatherer. We also find her as the horns of Ephraim. That's right, in the blessings of Ephraim. Yeah, that's what we find. For precept must be upon precept, right? So here we're going to do a little turnaround once we get our understanding going. It's not the greatest today. For she says, law after law after law, line upon line upon line after line, a little here, a little there. All right. So in current day, these daughters that I took out, we're learning the truth little by little by little. All right. Line by line by line. I tell you, I've been at this for 12 years. And that's how it's really been for me. It's been a little after a little bit. Because the Spirit has to move so slowly with a newborn child. You know, that's what we're akin to, the newborn child. Us daughters, the firstborn of the kingdom, being taught, willing to be taught the truth from our mother wisdom. That's right. And she's the one that determined to turn back to us. That's what it's told. She's the one that determined that. We didn't. She determined it. Thank God she did. So she will speak to this people with stammering speech and in a foreign language. Now, I do see myself in this verse. I do. I'm not saying I'm the only one. But I certainly have stammering lips most of the time. And I'm certainly not Hebrew. I don't speak, Jewish. I don't speak Hebrew. I'll get it. So I speak with another tongue, English. I do speak a little French, very little French, but, in Canada, you're taught it in the schools and whatnot. So, for with stammering lips and another tongue will she speak to this people, right? To whom she said, this is the rest wherewith ye may cause the weary to rest. And this is the refreshing, yet they would not hear. So we're told that the Spirit of truth, this earth will not receive it. And it says, you may fall, this earth has fallen, maybe to never rise again. It's really on the people. It's really up to the people to receive the truth, to use their brain to reason it out. Particularly the women who don't seem to want to turn away from that idol where they're currently bowed down as a harlot. God calls you a harlot in the spirit. And the men as well bowed down. There's really not that division. There never was that division in the beginning. The harlot spirit was defined as male and female in the beginning, and it had the idea of bowing down to an idol. It's been took a step further when the women bow down to this male idol of husband, bridegroom, Jesus, and they basically use all their good, all their power, all their energy, building him up and tearing really womankind themselves down. They don't even know it. But she's, in her great mercy, she turns back to us, and I think I'm an example of that. But also the stammering lips, I'm an example of that. English, I'm speaking in English. I think I'm part of that new branch that's been took out. To whom she said, this is the rest wherewith ye may cause the weary to rest. So, you know, a bed, they'll say a bed is a rest, a place to lay down and have sex. Let's come right out with it. God's idea, you know, when that word is used, it simply means, you know, this rest in the spirit, this peaceful rest. It's not to do with sleeping in a bed with another person. It has to do with finding rest for your weary soul. All right, that's what it means. Not dirty old sex, which is what's on most men's brains, women's brains. Bed, bed, bed means sex. Bed means dirty old sex. It means to have a peaceful, restful soul. In the spirit, that's what it means. Righteousness. We're not talking the wicked ideas of today, shaped by religious lie and law. That's not what we're talking about. So to whom she said, this is the rest wherewith you may cause the weary to rest, and this is the refreshing, yet they would not hear. All right. Are they hearing today? I don't know. I like to think there's a few, and I believe there is a few, but I believe there's a very few. So, but the word of the Lord was unto them precept upon precept. So now we're going to show you how the fall happened. All right? Then the word of the Lord came to them. Then this is part of the imagination that began in Jeremiah 23. It began prior to that. We've discussed it. We've looked into it. We know how. All right? But this imagination came unto them when they started gnashing upon her in the courts of heaven to take her down as the sovereign ruler of the kingdom, and they replaced themselves as the rulers of the kingdom, as a sovereign ruler of the kingdom. Well, they're not a sovereign, all right? They've actually managed to perjure themselves in the court of law, and that's why she's given her daughter time to gather the evidence. They just don't know it, but they should know it, because it's all there for them to know, so they can't claim ignorance, right? It's been there. And they forgot that that was the lie they told a long time ago. And so it becomes the snare, the ditch that they have all fallen into and can't climb out of. And why it says, she says, I escape, but they do not. Right? They can't climb out of that ditch. They refuse it. They refuse the new spirit. Going, man, man, man. So this is all part of that snare that they've laid for the women to fall into. Mother puts her hand forth, pulls us out of that ditch. She places her spirit upon us, is what she does. And over time, it actually does lead to her receiving back her blessing back upon her head. Whether that's to do with this earth, it's a new earth she's gave to rule over with her children, new seed put in. But this is all leading us up to that idea as well. All right? But the word of the Lord was unto them precept upon precept. So they said to themselves, it came to them. The word of the Lord came to them. No, it didn't. She says, you say, the Lord saith. She says that in Jeremiah 23. When I did not send you. So here we've actually got that kind of idea going in. And they're going, oh, we could do law after law after law. We could do line after line after line, a little here, a little there. So they go stumbling backwards to be broken, trapped, and captured. And that's what we have today. They wrote their religious lies and law system little by little, right? They've told the lie so long that they forgot it come from them. It did not come from God. God said, I sent you not, yet you ran. Right? I told you not to prophesy the burden of the Lord, yet you did. Right? We find these false prophets in here prophesying the burden of the Lord, the burden of the Lord. So they prophesy the burden of the Lord. Where do we find it? Lamentations 2:14. Now, we know it's the daughters inside of Israel in focus on this, right? In Lamentations 2:13 it says this, what can I say for you? To what can I compare you to, O daughter of Jerusalem? To what can I liken you that I may console you, O virgin daughter of Zion? For your wound is as deep as the sea. Who can ever heal you? And it's true. You know, no matter how far the Lord takes me in this climb, and it is a climb. That's why you're called a she-goat. It's the he-goats holding the mountain, but they're also known as the devil. Satir is another word for a he-goat. It means a devil. That seems to be the meaning, but it was the she-goat that's promised full restoration back to her covenant, which we'll see again in Isaiah 28 as we keep reading. But she says, who can heal you? Your wound is deep as the sea, and it is because there's so much false doctrine, water, right? And it's not her water. We know they dried her well of water up. We know Zion means a dry desert land. They dried her waters up. They did not want her. It doesn't mean there ain't water. It just means it's the false waters, right? And there's so much of that doctrine to have to wade through, to have to pour through, to get through to the deeper truth is what you have to do. And she says, who can ever heal you? 14. The visions of your prophets were empty and deceptive. They did not expose your guilt to ward off your captivity. Her captivity was man-made religious lies and laws around her neck. A yoke on her neck that she had to carry that he couldn't carry. All right? It says, take for me a heifer who has never been yoked. Right? And that was the daughters of Israel. They had never been yoked under this heavy, violent law. They also had to agree to carry this yoke upon them. Otherwise, man would never have a chance at redemption. They had to agree to this, to carry this burden on them. And that at the end, they would rise up out of the dust of the earth, holding the truth upon them. And they did. Mother says, don't worry, I'll choose you again. You'll be my scepter. So we have no worries. They can slam us all they want, these wicked sons of Baal and Belial. I know they're wrong, beyond a shadow of a doubt. She's taught that to me. So she says, don't worry, I'll choose you again. I'm not going to choose out of those harlots that choose to bow to this idol made by a man and a woman, a harlot woman and a harlot man who wants to bow to an idol and say, God, God, God. But it says, and they did not expose your guilt to ward off your captivity. The burdens they envisioned for you were empty and misleading. So you know where that takes us to? Timothy. Let's go to Timothy here. Where is it? I got it pulled up. Back here. Timothy? Right there. 2 Timothy. What does it say in 2 Timothy 3, 6-9? Four of these are they that creep into houses, these wicked sons of Baal and Belial, those men on the pulpit teaching their religious lie and law, the snare that they have fallen into, not smart enough to crawl out of, don't care to, and take captivity or captive. Look that word up. I'm pretty sure it's captive. It means to be took captive in a war. Take captive silly women. Yeah, you silly women who thinks Jesus is the way. Silly women laden with sins, led away by various lusts, ever learning and never ever able to come to the knowledge of the truth. The bondage of his law that's got you at his feet playing his harlot in a lying covenant, which is to be disannulled, by the way. But you see what it says? You silly women. Oh, but he loves me. Jesus is my husband. I'm his... No, Jesus is... I now pronounce you... This is one I hate. I now pronounce you man and wife. Debasement, anyone? It's a joke. It's a joke. And you ain't figured it out yet. Silly women laden with sins, led away by your own lusts of what you want love to be. Oh, but he loves me. Does he? You're not washed in blood. You're stained in it. You're stained in a violent system that you agreed to. And it says so. We're going to get to it. Okay. So where am I going to now? So we read Lamentations. Okay. So we're going to go back. And we're going to keep reading in Isaiah. Where is it? 28. Down we go. Yet they would not hear. You could have had soul, rest for your weary soul, through the truth, through the reborn spirit. You could have, right? We know there's coming a time when they will. Verse 13, but the word of the Lord was unto them precept upon precept, law upon law. So they said to themselves, we're going to take his law as the God word, and we're going to live with that yoke on our neck, right? They didn't want rest for their weary soul. It's kind of your understanding. It's one of them anyway. Wherefore hear the word of the Lord, ye scornful men that rule this people, which is in Jerusalem. You mockers. That's right, you men with this drunk on this admixture of doctrine. You see it on as the Lord's Supper. Yeah. On the table every Sunday. That's a lie. The day of rest was Saturday, because she rested after she created everything. They're just, yeah, drunk on a lie. So therefore, let me see. Right here, this is the one actually we're going to look at. Because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death and with hell. What's another word for hell? Sheol. With Sheol, the womb of Sheol. There we go. Let's go the womb of Sheol, because I believe you get that understanding when you pull that word up, because I have studied this before. I do have a video on this covenant that is to be disannulled, and I'll post it under this video if I think to. So it says, because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with hell are we at agreement. So who exactly are they at agreement with? When the overflowing scourge shall pass through. What's the overflowing scourge passing through, do you think? And it shall not come unto us, for we have made lies our refuge. They're in agreement. You see, he's saying we're in agreement with her. She's in agreement with us in the courts of heaven. You see? Oh. So they're saying because she's in full agreement with us. What does she say? In Psalm 50. She says, now I will rebuke you, Adam, and I will set the case in order. Ah, we got a court case there, right? She says, you thought I was a man just like you. You thought I was going to go along with this forever. I have remained silent. I have held my peace, right? Now will I go forth as a travailing woman. Now I'm going to claim my children. I'm going to birth my children out through this admixture of lies, which I'm going to part, and I'm going to show you the truth. That's what I'm going to do. And you're either going to have the right to go along with it or the right to disagree. And when you disagree, that is the plummet line, because it'll be her plummet line, and you will be judged by her plummet line. That's right. You'll either go along with what is the spirit of this kingdom, or you'll be snip, snip, cut away. That's how it goes. You've got free will, right? So they have made a covenant with death, and at hell, Sheol, these women who willingly bow to the religious lie, building him up in the courts of heaven. Mother says, I've got no reason not to allow him to continue to rule over you. As long as you go along with everything, I'm not going to take your part. You don't take your part, I'm not going to take your part. He's got every right to continue on ruling over you because that's what you want. So that's what it means with this covenant with death and with hell. Are we at agreement? And when the overflowing scourge, you think that's what we're seeing now in the second heaven? It has the idea of the second heaven. It has an idea of a battle, a spiritual battle of even ships passing over us in the heavens, passing through. And as long as there is an agreement from the Holy One, with these sons of darkness, she has no reason to judge. She has no reason to step in and stop it until she determines to stand up and set her case in order and present it before the Ancient of Days. Is your understanding? Which is why I think we are catching glimpses of planets out there. It's ready in us for that moment when it states that men's hearts will be failing them for what will be coming upon on the earth. Where does it say that? I had it pulled up somewhere. There it is. Luke 21:26. People will faint from terror, apprehensive of what is coming on the world. For the heavenly bodies will be shaken. And they will. Why are the heavenly bodies shaken all of a sudden? You see, what we know is the principality and the power of the air is defined as feminine. So they have the harlot spirit in control in a sense of that spirit world, which is akin to the second heaven, right? She's suppressed under that. Somewhere amongst us, the spirit of the righteous daughter is still in existence. It's never really fully died, all right? And so we get this idea she's being reborn of the dust of the earth, right, to claim back what always rightfully belonged to her, which then leads us to Isaiah 52. Stand up, daughter Zion, and take back your throne. Take off the yoke on your neck, that lie, that religious lie on your neck. And daughter Babylon says, no one sees me. I will never be widowless. I will never be childless. And she's hiding in the second heaven, as is power and the other half of this covenant, which is why the principality and power of the air in the New Testament is often feminine. She's the one that's in agreement. She's the one holding him up in a sense. But it says the force changed within me, is what it states in Job, right? It says the force is not right within me. Well, the force that was not right within me is the harlot spirit was handed over the host, right? In Daniel. So, and it says she became equal to the host of heaven. Well, we can say she, but it was really he that became equal to the host of the heaven. And he took her host from her by exalting the harlot spirit in his heart. And she says, no one sees me. And that's the one he's at agreement with, which is to actually be disannulled. So where is it? Okay, I went too far. Here we go. So we have made a covenant with death. And as long as the women are ever learning but never able to come to the knowledge of the truth, they will stay as a representation of the womb of Sheol. They will continue to give life to death, right, in a sense. They're birthing these children, but as long as she refuses to teach them the truth of the righteous spirit's covenant, which was the wife of the original covenant, actually the spirit of the original covenant, as long as she rejects that, then the powers in the second heaven, identified as the harlot spirit, will continue to be the other half of his covenant, upholding him. So because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death and with hell, are we at agreement? When the overflowing scourge shall pass through. So when they come through, these ships, this mighty host, this mighty army, in some sense, comes through that we're now picking up, right, as these planets to some degree, out in the second heaven. They're just going to pass through as long as you're at agreement, right? As long as the women of earth are fine with man ruling over her and perpetuating violence against them under the law and legalizing it for themselves, and they're holding together in this lie, there's nothing I can do, Mother says. Right? Mother Wisdom says, you got to take your part. And that's why we get these verses, and I did write them under the last video, just barely this morning. So let me see just so I can reference the verses that I did write. I wrote this. If I can find them. It says, it's 2 verses I'm looking for. Psalm 72:22. This is what it says. And when it says God is talking about these daughters, the daughters of Israel. Arise, O God, and plead your own cause, your own case. And remember how the foolish man scoffs at you all day long. Yeah. Why does God get to plead his own case? No, he's mocking her in the heavens. We determined Satan was actually another name for Adam. We traced all the words back to Adam, the accuser. He accused the spirit of the original covenant. And she says, I don't even know what he's talking about. They're accusing me of things I have no idea what they're talking about. Which is why Mother says, I'm turning my back on you. And I'm going to give you time. I'm going to give you time to form your case. And she remained silent, I believe, until she could do that. So arise. Then we have Psalm 78, verse 65. Then the Lord awoke as from sleep, as a warrior wakes from the stupor of wine. Right? We've been drunk on this religious lie, which is in the form of the Red Sea. That's right. That's a representation of the admixture of doctrine that she must part. We also know that she, daughter Zion, the right hand of God, is also the one that actually manages to destroy Rahab and to break apart the Leviathan is the idea. She kind of disembodies that system and breaks it apart and kind of sends it to different parts to feed, to feed others with the goods out of that system. Is kind of your understanding. So she finally arises out of sleep, which is the admixture of wine on the table that put her to sleep in a religious lie. Then the Lord awakes as from sleep, as a warrior awakes from the stupor of wine. And this leads us to the elect in Romans 11. It says it's a divine selection known before the foundation of the world. They are the first fruit, firstborn daughters of the kingdom, of the first dominion of the daughter of Israel, restored. So Romans 11, as it is written, God gave them a spirit of stupor, eyes that could not see and ears that could not hear to this very day. But now they awakened and obtained that which they sought for, which was their children, hearkening to the spirit of the original covenant. Romans 11:15. For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? So Job 13, which I forgot to do on the last video, which was Job 13. It was 17, 18, 19, something like that. Now that I have prepared my case, I know I will be vindicated. And that means the resurrection has come. And we get all of that understanding in the book of Daniel. Yeah, when the Ancient of Days arise to hear her case. And that's akin to that overflowing scourge, right? Which is not going to pass by this time. Because at least one of us, daughter, has our case set in order. At least one of us. I don't know how many of us there is out there. All right? But this is what it's telling us. And so few wants to believe the truth. And it says this world cannot receive the spirit of truth. It can't. And we know that they went up and they blasphemed the Holy One. We know this. They blasphemed the Holy One of Israel in 2 Kings 19, when Hezekiah goes up to make a petition. And we know it's Sennacherib. It leads us right back to the Assyrians that blasphemed the holy name, which was the Holy One of Israel, the daughter. All right, it began with them tearing her down. It actually began before that. But Sennacherib, his name means the pointy cherub. That's what it meant. He was pointing at her. And this is what it says, and I'm not so sure that they weren't keen on going into captivity of Babylon. But we'll read this under the Abraham publications for the meaning of the name Shebna. And it says, the Babylonians managed what the Assyrians couldn't and took Judah into exile. Well, they're one and the same, right? They ruled over the same parts, these did. In Babylon, the Jews rose to international prominence, recorded the Torah in its modern form. I just know they did. That's the law system ruling the world, the lie that put woman in bondage. which is why it states the Antichrist, the Antichrist. Well, the Antichrist just means a man against the Holy One, the daughters of Israel, in whom the law was to be found at her mouth. So they recorded the Torah in its modern form and established the most successful form of government the world has ever seen. Yeah, that's what's ruling. The religious lie of fallen Adam. So you can look at principalities, the words in Ephesians 6:12. It might lead you to some understanding. Isaiah 29:15, we did it. Therefore, I will again confound these people with wonder upon wonder. The wisdom of the wise will vanish, and the intelligence of the intelligent will be hidden. Woe to those who dig deep to hide their plans from the Lord. In darkness they do their works and say, who sees us and who will know? And that's what they've done. You have turned things upside down, as if the potter were regarded as clay. Yeah, Father, Daddy gave life to everything. He. Who do you think stands on that pulpit teaching that lie? Who is descendants of their forefathers, Balaam, right? Teaching the lie. The sons of Baal and the sons of Belial, the sons of darkness, the sons of Satan, the sons of fallen Adam. That's who. You have turned things upside down as if she, the Creator, our mother, was regarded as nothing more than the clay. Shall what is formed say to her who formed it, she did not make me? Can the Creator say of the potter, can the potter, the clay, say of the Creator, she has no understanding? Oh, yeah, they can. They do it all the time off the pulpit. They do. Okay, so Isaiah 28. So we know that the foundation is going to shake, right? We have hid ourselves under a falsehood of lies. So as long as she, the Spirit, is in agreement on earth with him, then they expect the overflowing scourge to pass on by. But it doesn't. At one point, it doesn't. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. And those that believes won't be so easily shaken. You see, when you have the truth, you know you have it. Because it reasons and it makes sense. Nothing else that they're preaching off of that pulpit makes sense. He gave life. She must submit to him, a sinner. Right. Okay, so somebody come in my house. I'm going to pause this for a moment. We will pause. Okay, I'm back. So we're going to keep reading in Isaiah 28. So it says, and your covenant with death shall be disannulled. Right? Judgment also will I lay to the line. There's the plummet stone. I'm sorry. We'll go back to 16. Therefore thus saith the Lord God, behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. And those that believe, you won't easily be disturbed by them getting on there mocking you every chance they get. And they do mock you. Judgment also will I lay to the line. They got plummet in here somewhere. To the plumb line. Yeah. Judgment also will I lay to the line, and righteousness to the plummet. There it is. And the hail shall sweep away the refuge of lies, and the waters shall overflow the hiding place. So now we're looking at the real waters. The truth is what's going to overflow and find the secret places, the hiding places, which is the mystery to actually be revealed when the seventh trumpet sound, which is your birthright holder, the daughter of Zion, in full control of her birthright at that point. And your covenant with death shall be disannulled, and your agreement with hell shall not stand. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, then ye shall be trodden down by it. So is that what's going on right now? They're getting ready to set the judgment, possibly. And then we continue on because it's going to tell us other things. It says, every time it passes through, it will carry you away. So when this is actually brought down to earth, and it says, hearts will be failing men for what will be coming upon the earth, right? Then it says, every time it passes through, it will carry you away. It will pass through every morning, every day, every night. So you're going to be afraid all day, is what it's saying. And it's only this terror that's going to cause you to understand the message, because you will not understand my messengers, right? My envoy, they're called, I believe in Obadiah 1. Let us rise up against her. It means Babylon, the harlot spirit that's in control of the second heaven, in a sense, the principality, the power of the air. But it's really man in charge of it because he's got the harlot spirit exalted. So as long as she's going along with it on earth, it keeps the harlot in charge of the host, which is really him in charge because she's teaching the host exactly what he wants taught. So that's the agreement that we're at, right? But that's the agreement to be disannulled. And it's when, I think we're called the rear guard that Mother left behind. We were the rear guard. And she left us behind so that at one point we would finally rise up with the truth once we discovered it. And that's why she turned her back on us. She's given us time to come to that understanding. So, from that time, the time that it goeth forth, right, you're going to be afraid all from day to night. Only terror will cause you to understand the message, right? Because you're not turning back to the truth. You're being cocky about it. You're being willing ignorant about it. You're willingly ignorant. You're wallowing in it. Because you're so sure you're right. You fell into the snare, your own ditch. You refuse to search for the deeper truth. You refuse to listen to the messengers of the covenant, of the original covenant. You're not hearing them. So you're going to be left in terror. And it's only going to be that great fear that's going to cause you to understand the message, the report. So indeed the bed is too short to stretch out on, and its cover too small to wrap up in. Now, I look at that, taking in the second heaven. Now it says, when they kept offering up the harlot spirit in a basket as their first fruit offering, one of their first fruit offering, because it was first fruits of everything. But when they began to keep offering up this harlot spirit in the basket, which is the curse that goeth over the whole earth, God says, you'll come no further. I set my boundary. I'm not hearing. You can no longer cast a cord for lots in my congregation, in my assembly. And what that meant was, you will no longer take land. You're no longer entitled to any more land, any more property. You're not going to ask for an allotment. I'm not giving them to you. No more. Because of this lying covenant that's to be disannulled. So now we're coming up on this end where the bed is too short and too small, which is that they're running out of territory to fill. They've either destroyed much of their own territory through this lie. We know violence has entered in great under this covenant, which allows wars to go forth. War has probably took a great deal of property worth living on. We know the drying up of her waters has caused great desertification, not only here on earth, but I suspect out in other allotments that they were allotted that they just don't tell us about. And that stone was set, right? And so the bed has become too short, which leads us to the tent. She says, I will stretch out your tent for you, dear daughter. And that's found in Isaiah 54. Let me see. I'll pull it up in my Bible. So it's in Isaiah 54. If I can finish up here. Isaiah 54. Alright, so what does she say? Yeah, she says you'll stretch out your tent on every side. Verse 2, right? Once we get our case set in order and we win back the dominion through our argument, through our case, right? taking up our own cause, setting the case in order, understanding God's truth that we were to live by, not man's religious lie and law that we began to follow. What does it say? Verse 2, 54, Isaiah, enlargen the place of thy tent, and let them stretch forth the curtains of thine habitation, spare not. Lengthen thy cords, and strengthen thy stakes. For thou shalt break forth on the right hand and on the left, and thy seed shall inherit the Gentiles, and make the desolate cities to be inhabited. So once again, we're going to be claiming our allotment, which she says, I have kept in reserve for you. That's another thing. That was part of a dream I saw. I saw an estate being allotted back to me. Now, I didn't see a lot of it. I just was being led by another woman. She had a scepter in her hand. And she took me up to these huge gates, and I wasn't allowed to see the estate, which I think is the estates of the original daughters of Israel that we're found to be descendant of. We actually have a legitimate claim to them once we turn back to our mother's law. And that's what this is. So she says, I have kept your estate, for you. I have. So that's why it says the desolate cities will be inhabited once again. I think there's more at play here than just our mere mortal eyes can take in, can behold. It has to be in the spirit that you understand this. So verse 21, we did a little bit of a video on verse 21. We won't discuss it here today, but I'll read it. For the Lord shall rise up as in Mount Perizim. She shall be wroth as in the valley of Gibeon, that she may do her work, her strange work, and bring to pass her act, her strange act. Verse 22, now therefore be ye not mockers, lest your hands be made strong, bands be made strong. For I have heard from the Lord of hosts a consumption, even determined upon the whole earth. So she says, if you mock these daughters, my messengers, when I send them, the yoke, the law I'm going to place upon you is going to be even heavier. So don't mock. Don't mock. You risk a great deal when you mock my messengers. So what's the destruction determined? The consumption determined. It says completion, complete destruction, annihilation, right? Go down. It's a feminine noun. Utter end, a riddance. They say good riddance to bad rubbish. We say that a lot around here. And yesterday, or when I made the video there, I meant it says when the sun is shining and it's raining, right? They'll say the devil is beating his wife. And we've said that around here for years. I did look up where it came from. Apparently it came from an old French play in the 1700s. Why we say it around here all the time, I think it must come through the French in some way. So we have a consumption. Definition of consumption. I got that pulled up here somewhere. Where do I have it? Consumption. A wasting disease, especially pulmonary or tuberculosis. Gee. I wonder if the consumption was determined and went forth. And because people refuse to understand the truth, the greater truth, you don't even know it. Okay, so I'm going back to Isaiah 29. Well, I think I am. Where is it? What's that? It is right there. Okay. So the consumption was determined upon the whole earth, and it was. We saw a consumption, a disease. Give ye ear and hear my voice. Hearken and hear my speech. Who do we see saying that? We saw that Mother Wisdom speaking in Proverbs 1. And she says, when you don't hear me, when you won't listen to my instructions, I'm going to mock you. And I'll send my rod of iron to mock you. And takes us to Psalm 2, where she gives birth to her daughter. She gives her the decree and says, now will you go forth and do with them whatever you please? I'll send my rod of iron, and I will mock you in the day of your calamity, because you mocked your mother. Yeah, he is mocked. Rejecting her spirit, her law, as the sovereign Lord of the kingdom is a blaspheme of the Holy Spirit. Give ye ear and hear my voice, hearken and hear my speech. Does the plowman plow all day to sow? Does he open and break the clods of his ground, her ground? When she has made plain the face thereof, does she not cast abroad the fitches and scatter the cumin and cast in the principal wheat and the appointed barley and the rye in their place? So that all has to do with the birthing of the first fruit of the new kingdom set in order. The old seed will be cut away and made. The ground will be made ready for a new earth, a new seed that hearkens to the spirit of the original covenant, not the lie of man, or the lie of this beast system of violence and hatred towards his sister by writing laws, and we see laws and lies against her. For the fitches are not threshed with a threshing instrument, neither is a cartwheel turned about upon the cumin, but the fitches are beaten out with a staff and the cumin with a rod. Well, there's some there we could study, but we're not gonna. We're gonna move along here. Bread corn is bruised because it will not ever be threshing it, nor break it with the wheel of the cart, nor bruise it with the horseman. So this also comes from the Lord of hosts. She gives wonderful advice, and she gives great wisdom. And she does. You know how I know? Because I've been listening to her. And by listening to her, that is how I've managed to make sense of this whole thing. Well, not all of it, but a lot of it. And it's been, I have to say, I've actually enjoyed it. I've actually enjoyed myself breaking down the allegories. It's been a lot of work. It's not been easy, especially with a lot of things going on in my life right now. My family's getting older. You know, all my brothers and sisters are in our 50s now. Our parents are aging, getting older, not so well. So there's a lot of responsibility. And then to have to, you know, dig into this and try to make a video and try to make sense of that all. It's not been easy, but you know what? It sure has been worth it. I don't feel shakeable. You know, I feel unshakable in the things that I know, because it's the Spirit that's provided them for me. And I was going to read Job. Let me see. Dare I read Job? I might shut this off by accident. But I was going to read Job. Can I find it? If I can find Job, I'll read it right quick and we'll end on Job. Job. Where's Job? Job 26:11. Actually, yeah. The foundations of heaven quake. There we go with quaking. There's a character in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The shields of the Lord are also female. The protectors of our own head. Female shields. And then we got quake. You know, which is why the cities of the world fall. She brings them down. So the foundations of heaven quake, astounded at her rebuke. Alright? She's the one presenting her case. She's the one rebuking fallen Adam. Let's go to it. I know. I'm done. Alright? Psalm 50. Right quick. Well, maybe not so quick. But Psalm 50. Psalm 50. What did she say? And it's her. She says, long time have I been silent. We know it's the feminine that they silenced, they shot at. You see that in Joseph's blessings. In Genesis 49, and the ones who shot at her were the archers called Baal, your husband, who links us to the statue actually out of Egypt. So we know this has been going on for some time. But in Psalm 50, what does she say here? Seeing thou, I've got this light just like it's shining there and it ain't even on. Seeing thou hatest instruction, yeah, you hated wisdom, and castest my word behind thee, when thou sawest a thief, then you consentest with him, with her, yeah. She did, the harlot spirit did. He did too. He consentest, she consentest, and has been partaker with adulterers. Yeah, you have. So it looks like she's addressing the harlot spirit here. You gave your mouth over to evil and your tongue framed deceit, and you're still doing it, bowing at the feet of an idol. Yeah, you're the great adversary to the truth. You harlots, building hubby up with all your goods and letting him take control of the law, saying you have none anymore. That's him using your goods for building up his lie in his system. Thou sittest and speakest against thy own sister. It's got your brother. No, you spoke against me, your righteous sister. You slanderest thine own mother's daughter. That's what you do. These things hast thou done, and I kept silent. You thought I was a woman just like you. Well, I'm not. So you can take that. I'm not a man. I'm not a man like you. I'm a woman. And I'm not a woman like you. Right? I'm not a harlot. I'm not bowing to a man as if he's Lord and God, because he's not. And I'm not going to use my goods to build a lie up in the land. So this is her rebuke. Right? She's rebuking him. So these things you have done, and I kept silent. You thought I was just like you. But I will reprove you. I will rebuke you and your lies. And I will set the case in order before your very eyes. All right? So if you want to read all the comment I wrote under my last video, you might understand more of what I'm saying if you've not been one along on the studies that we've made. So in Job, when she says this, when it is stated this, where's Job again? Oh, I missed. Where's Job? Well, I've got it out. I do that. So the foundations of heaven quake, astounded not at his rebuke, at her rebuke. Now will I go forth. Right? This is the rear guard that got left in the earth to prove the case. Right? She also had to bear the double of the burden on her neck as the she-goat. Right? All the sins were placed upon her head. Yeah. She's the one that's borne the double. Which is why she's promised double and promised to have her estate restored back to her. Yeah. So by her power, she stirs the sea. By her understanding, she shattered Rahab. That takes us to the same passages, more or less, that you find in Psalm 89, which we use to understand who the right hand of God, who does break down Rahab and Leviathan, that sneaky little dragon. And by her breath, the skies were cleared. Her hand pierced the fleeing serpent. Yeah, this takes us all to Psalm 89. Like again, if you study it. Isaiah 52, 51, 52. And then link it all back to what it's saying in Psalm 89. You will understand that the right hand that does all of these things, that destroys the beast system, this violent system based on a lie, that breaks the toes on the false image of that idol in Daniel, and then grows into a mountain herself. It says she does become the foundation stone, which was promised before the world. Indeed, these are but the fringes of her ways. How faint is the whisper we hear of her. Oh, it's just a whisper out of the dust of the earth. Who then can understand the thunder of her power? She chooses us out. That's the only way we can understand. She chooses us. Thank God she does. I'm so glad I know the things I know. Anyway, I can't find my camera. I took it away. It's gone. Here it is. Okay, so that'll be the whole video. Sorry it's so long. Oh my gosh, is it ever. Thanks for watching. I hope you get something out of the video. Pray the Lord blesses you with an abundance of truth. Hope you all have a really nice day. And thanks for watching.